Hello, I'm Mal, welcome. In this video I'm going to update you by lifting the veil on XCOM 2 modding tools, talk a bit about the day one mod releases, oh and maybe, just maybe, you'll also find the game's opening cinematic. Alright folks, let's go find out how we can mod our way to victory and smash more alien faces. So obviously XCOM 2, it's been previously reported that it is mod friendly, but I have to say after watching the panel discussion today at PAX South, it's modding done right. The tools include everything you can imagine from a built-in step-by-step debugging tool, asset creation, map and world building, and most importantly, ability to make a weapon that fires pigeons. Oh, you don't think I'm serious about that? Let's take a listen to what Greg, the art director from XCOM, has to say about what people can do with all these tools.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. I mean, I think that I'm very intrigued by it. Like, I want to see what people do with what we've provided. You know, we have things that we've been trying to make and things that we've been doing for so long now that I'm really curious to see what the community is going to take from that and what they want to do with it, and how they're going to grow it. So, yeah, we're giving them pretty much everything, but I'm really excited to see what they come back with.
Pigeon guns.
Yeah, I want to see a pigeon gun, like February 6th.
Shooting out of Officer Bradford's gun.
Yeah, out of Bradford's gun.
Yeah, we do have
So if you weren't familiar with it, XCOM 2, the base game itself is 45 gigs in size, and believe it or not, it's streamlined for quick load times, so it doesn't include the SDK, the editors, or assets for modding. If you want access to all those goodies, there's going to be a separate 50 gig download. Now, thankfully, we are able to preload on Steam the base game. Now, I'm not sure whether or not we'll be able to preload the modding tools, but one would think that that would be available. We'll just have to see. Modding itself has become more accessible in XCOM 2, and the base knowledge level in order to create a mod has been reduced. So you're not going to have to hack, hex code or be able to read machine code anymore. Now you've got a nice interface in which to work in, a tool that they refer to as XCOM Buddy. According to the technical lead, there are 3 levels of modding in XCOM 2, and let me briefly take you through those. The first is simply something they refer to as an add-on mod. This includes perhaps some new arts and some INI files, and we're going to take a closer look at an example of that here shortly, because the Long War Studios team, which Firaxis partnered with, came up with some day one launch mods, and those 3 all fall into this add-on mod category, the base level of modding. The second level of modding, I guess, becomes a little bit more complex, and it is regards to changing the base game mechanics, its AI functions, and so on, and all of this is still accessible through the mod tools themselves. Finally, the third form of modding in XCOM 2 was referred to as a quote-unquote expert mode. It includes rebuilding core content of the game, scripting packages, and all. Incidentally, it was confirmed that if a modder wants to build a co-op game mode, it's certainly possible. So, for the modders out there, if anyone happens to hear me, please build a co-op mode. Make that top priority. We can get to full conversion mods of Warhammer and Star Wars and everything else later, but let's get a co-op mode. I've been dreaming about that forever. Please, I'm begging you. Something else that was super cool is that you can actually build soldier perks contingent on map conditions such as time of day and even possibly weather, though I wasn't able to confirm that latter bit, but internally the Firaxis team actually already tested perks based on time of day. So in theory, you could build a perk like Stalker and have some kind of bonuses at night to movement and what have you, which I thought was super, super cool. Alright, before we dive into what Firaxis partner and Long War Studios has come up with for the day one release, let's take a listen to Long War mod creator and co-founder of Long War Studios had to say about building mods for XCOM 2.
When 2K called and said, and this is kind of the middle of last year, 2K said, can you sign a non-disclosure agreement? And I said, yes. And then they said, we're making XCOM 2. It's going to have a great deal of modding capability. Do you want to make some mods for us? And I said, let me think about it. Yes.
JL goes on to tell us that it's been a great working experience with Firaxis directly, and they have had each build of the game on an ongoing basis. With that said, let's take a closer look at some of these free Day 1 mod releases from Long War Studios. The first one, a weapon mod, I am so excited about that I might actually alter my plans not to use any mods my first XCOM 2 Let's Play. It introduces the submachine gun class to the game, a weapon class that many of us that have played Long War are familiar with. Just as it did in the Long War mod for Enemy Within, the submachine gun class will give your soldiers additional mobility, and in addition to that, make them harder to detect. That's right, you heard me, harder to detect. I think this opens up some really interesting tactical options. The SMG weapon class will be usable by anyone that has access to an assault rifle. Presumably the balance will come from reduced damage. So while this may or may not prove to be a solid ranger weapon, that remains to be seen, but it could make for an interesting weapon choice for a scout type ranger, I'm not sure. But maybe also a non-Overwatch build specialist. That could be viable. We'll just have to see, but I'm really, really excited about it. I think it's really cool to see this already into the game. The second mod is another Long War fans will be accustomed to, and that's Alien Leaders. In this case, we'll see the introduction of the Muton Centurion. In addition to being tougher, the Centurion will also be able to deal more damage, make other alien allied units more effective. Now, with all of these mods, it would appear that they have been balanced for Day 1 integration into your game, and JL mentioned the Centurion specifically would not appear until the mid-game, so you quote-unquote should be able to handle it when it arrives. I don't know. The Long War devs in general like to punish players, so we'll see whether or not it's truly balanced once we get to see it in-game. The third mod that'll be available from the Long War team on Day 1 is the addition of a leader class. And I say leader because, of course, until someone mods it so that all of your soldiers aren't officers, which is something in XCOM that's kind of always bugged me. I guess, so I suppose because I grew up in a military family, it always irked me a bit that everyone ends up as an officer. So someone please make a better rank and title mod ASAP, please. Well, my aversion to the default ranking system aside, this leader mod is similar to the way Psi Operatives worked in XCOM Enemy Within. It stacks on top of your regular skill trees and includes some interesting abilities. One such example was the ability to increase everyone's mobility for one turn. To balance these additional abilities, only one leader may go on a mission, and I think that's good. It forces you to think long-term about the makeup of your team. It also will force the player to think in terms of elements or fire teams versus just one larger group, and I think that's a very cool dynamic. The last thing I want to touch on today before we watch the opening game cinematic is map making. XCOM 2 has a robust procedurally generated map creation system. So XCOM Enemy Within had roughly 110 maps and they were all handcrafted, but according to the devs, XCOM 2 has about 2,400 map variations. That's fantastic. It uses a system of plots and something called PCP, or Plot Cover Point, to randomly generate the maps. There are various zone types from city centers and slums to wilderness, and there's 3 biome types, all of which the game will apply on the fly, and include tundra, temperate, and arid conditions. This plus the real-time lighting means that the game can generate any kind of mission at once in any kind of weather or setting, all on the fly. Now, the devs did go on to say that certain map types do have missions assigned to them, and the example that we were given were guerrilla operations. Seemingly these always happen on slum maps, but that too can be altered when crafting a map yourself. In the larger scheme, the maps themselves are generally divided up into smaller sections, all of which can be built by the player and injected to the game or published to Steam for others. The devs also made it clear that you can craft a completely static map, just like the handcrafted maps from Enemy Unknown and Enemy Within. So you have a ton of flexibility. I think that the degree of which the devs have gone to give power to the players with regards to XCOM 2 is just absolutely phenomenal. Well, I hope you enjoyed this XCOM 2 news and update video. I'll continue to produce these types of videos whenever there's something noteworthy. As a reminder, I will be putting out my XCOM 2 recruitment announcement in the coming days, so if you'd like to join the team, be on the lookout for that video and make sure you check out the details. Now, as promised, the XCOM 2 opening cinematic. If you don't want any spoilers, you better leave now, Commanders, because it's coming up quick. As always, thanks so much for watching. Please hit that thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. And until next time, I am Mal, and I will see you later.
Excitement continues to build as city centers across the globe prepare for the 20th anniversary of Unification Day.
Thousands line up at the site of the Great Accord, celebrating the formation of the Advent Coalition.
In keeping with their promise to humanity, 12 new gene therapy clinics will be opening in select cities by the end of the new year.
Despite the attempted attack by French elements, operations at the new facility in Paris thankfully remain unaffected.
In response to the unprovoked intrusion on the eve of our most beloved celebration, the speaker reaches out to us.
A small number of dissidents again repeat the mistakes of the old world.
Striking as we celebrate the benevolent savior of time and again offers only friendship and compassion. Yet these trivial actions
Could never break the bond between humanity and the elders.
Peacekeeping forces have already made several preemptive arrests of known collaborators. Advent again assures all citizens that today's celebrations will continue as planned.
Perfect.
The Advent administration reminds you to report all suspicious activity to your nearest peacekeeping. Approaching position. You were right. They've definitely got their hands full today.
Stay focused. Prep gatecrasher.
60 seconds. Now.
Signal received. Loud and clear. Okay, Gatecrasher. Your turn.